Hello, good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Good evening.
All right, we're gonna get started in tomorrow at 8:40. We're gonna get rolling here. We'll get rolling. Hope everybody's doing well.
Good morning, good afternoon, good
Absolutely
evening,
doing
wherever
well.
you
Good-
are.
Everybody,
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
young Jim Hicks from California.
Jim Hicks.
Yeah, the one and only. Looking at my new printer manual.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I was saying, uh-oh, watch your printer manual.
Yeah. I'm a board member at the credit union and they give us all a new printer. So I've had it for about a year. I haven't really taken it out, but I just decided the other week to take it out. And now I'm getting ready to, I think, install it tonight.
Mm.
Good luck with that.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Get started in 1 more minute, guys. 1 more minute.
Hello there, Wilma.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, Jim.
Yes, good
Hello.
morning. I see, good evening. See your smiling face over there.
Thank you.
There's Barbara with her big smile as usual. Yeah. Jody, she's got hers on too. What do we have?
Heck yeah.
Muhammad, yeah, he's smiling brightly. Who else we got here? Yolanda. Everybody's doing remote there. I mean, they don't want to show up on their face. Including our presenter. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm over here. I'm over here looking at a couple of other screens while I'm talking, so I don't want to look like I'm spaced out over here, so I cut my camera off.
Oh,
But y'all don't
okay.
see my camera on? My camera's not on?
Yeah, I see your camera, Yolanda.
Oh, okay. He said
Yeah,
Yolanda.
Yolanda.
Nobody said. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason the email that I sent out didn't leave. So I went in to go resend it for the people who because some of you all you guys obviously just jump on whether y'all get an email or not, which is good. But some people, if they don't get that prompt, they won't jump on. And for some reason my email didn't leave at 8:15. So I just went in to do it again and I cut my camera off so you guys can see me doing all that.
Sharonda, good evening, Sharonda.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
All right,
Yeah,
so-
somebody posted on the Facebook page that day that they didn't get it. So I tried to nicely say that. It's the same link every
It should
week.
be on your calendar anyway. That's what you trying to tell me.
No, I didn't say that. I just said it was the same link every week.
Yeah, look cute, Miranda.
Thank you.
That is-
And congratulations on another hit. I seen you. I was on a call, business solutions, and I seen you kick butt again.
See me help some people.
Good stuff.
What have you done that I haven't heard about, Sharonda?
No, you wasn't on the expo, Jim?
Uh-oh.
No, I wasn't. I
Tell
was
them,
at
Michelle.
Super Saturday.
No, the expo is every Wednesday. It's a Wednesday once a
No.
month.
I wasn't there,
Oh.
no.
Yeah. No, I was number 2 for field trainer for last month. I think Fran
Oh,
Hartwell got it for
congratulations.
number 1.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, guys, we're gonna go with our introduction real quickly, and then we will go forward from there. Welcome everybody from YouTube as well. Thank you guys for joining us. All right, so we're gonna go and turn it over to Miss Sharanda Ivy first do her introduction, and then we will go from there.
I might have said I just got your email.
Yeah,
George.
just push that thing. I just went in there and reset and for it to go out. So
Oh, okay.
mhm.
Gotcha. Well, good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. My name is Sharanda Ivy from Byron, Georgia. 50K ring earner, been with Legal Shield. We just did our 9th year, going into our 10th year. CDLP certification trainer, 2021, 2019 field trainer of the year. We've written over 1,000 personal apps. Number 2 small group opener last year. Small biz producer. And so just, focusing on this space, helping individuals, hitting their goals. So that's where that recognition comes from. So I do host the accountability call on Thursday nights for individuals who want some accountability for their activity in the CDLP space. So it's like a mastermind. Those individuals get on and talk about what they're doing, some of the obstacles they're facing, and just collaborating together to help each other. And so everybody brings something to the table because of the activity that they're doing. So with that, over to you, Dunbar.
All right, fantastic. I've been with Legal Shield for 13 years, been a trainer for over 7 years, trained in different areas with Legal Shield, and my final resting place on training has been CDLP. So really love the field, really love the niche market.
You froze.
Yeah, you froze. You froze.
The audience that sells it. People are very for people. So that's where everything is at for me. I am a 100K ring earner, got 2 ring earners on my team. And that's pretty much it for me on the training and my quick introduction. So I'm sure John may or may not be joining us. I know sometimes he's in the field. So me and Sharanda will be talking tonight, going over some things. I'm going to ask a question I asked before here. And then I'm going to choose, I may choose 2 people, but I might just stick with 1. It depends on how it all goes when we do this quick exercise. So I want to know who is attempting to make phone calls, but then they're kind of getting that phone call procrastination. Who was saying, hey, I'm gonna get up tomorrow and make calls, and then when it's time to go make those calls, you end up doing something else. Just put a 1 in the chat if that's you. Put a 1 in the chat if that's you.
Priscilla White.
Priscilla White.
Yes. Veronica Tall. Priscilla White.
Okay.
Cuba Dean Kendrick.
Some of y'all not only won't pick up the phone, but y'all won't put a 1 in the chat either. You procrastinating on that too. We only here to help. We only here to help.
Teresa West, Eileen Taylor, Mahamud. I can't say that last name. But Mahamud.
Come on now, I see it. I see him going.
Dan Nix. They say, yeah, you're not gonna call them. They not. Gwendolyn Prince, Stephanie Bob, Jackie Hamilton. Okay.
So and I want the people who put a 1 in the chat to take notes when I choose the person. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with the first person, which is, I believe, was Priscilla White. So Priscilla White, if you can unmute yourself. I don't know whether your camera's on because I can't see everybody.
My camera's not on because I'm in the hospital, but that's okay. But I can hear you. Yeah, I'm in the hospital room, but that's okay.
All right. Well, I don't know why you're there, but prayers for you. Whatever you're there for.
Yeah, cervical spine stuff, but I'm okay.
Okay, gotcha. Good to hear you okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to hit you on the screen with Sharanda and myself.
You can't put on there unless you got a camera on, can you? Can't highlight it, can you? You can't turn a camera on. You
You
froze, number?
question.
Oh,
Huh?
I thought you had froze.
Oh, yeah, I might, my internet be being crazy sometimes. So if, when I ask these questions, I'm asking for a particular reason, and then we're gonna give a little bit of guidance here, and we're gonna use the pain and pleasure principle concerning that. I'm going to try to drop a little quick pain and principle document in the chat for you guys to grab when I'm not the one talking. So try to bear with me on that, but I am gonna pull it up so you guys can see it at some point when we talk about a few different things. So Priscilla, I'm actually do have a couple things in place.
Okay.
Before, because this always helps when it comes to that. So the calls that you're looking to make, like when you're saying I'm going to make calls, like typically speaking, when you're saying you're going to make calls, are you just saying that? Are you writing it down? What's your process for these calls?
Well, I had wrote down some names and numbers of companies for DOT numbers from a while back. So I was going back to those numbers prior. So over the weekend, I started working on names and numbers that I was intending to do today, but I'll be on the blitz tomorrow doing that. So, but speaking prior to today, I would.
Yeah, well, in general, like it doesn't matter, like any time that you're saying, hey, I'm gonna make calls, and then that day comes, and it's like you don't make calls, you end up doing something else, you end up just doing everything but making those calls that you said, which is kind of like called procrastination, is really what's happening there. But just anytime, like you can give me a multitude of reasons. So like. Yeah. It might have been that time, but give me some other reasons why you haven't and what you had in place to make those calls. And when I'm saying what you had in place, what I mean is, are you just getting up in the morning and saying you're gonna make calls, or going to bed at night saying you're gonna make calls tomorrow? Or do you have that on the calendar? Do you have it written down as something that you're going to be doing tomorrow on your to-do list? Like, what's your process on that?
No, I didn't have it written down on the calendar. Some days I might write it down, other days I didn't. So like the night before, I hadn't got my list together and planned, or even had my list, for the week together. I hadn't done that, but I just said, oh, I'm gonna make calls tomorrow.
Okay, got you. All right, so, and Sharanda, you already know, like, whenever you hear something you want to chime in, just, if I hear you talking, I'm gonna stop. That's how that works. So just chime on in whatever you want. So when it comes to, and the reason why I'm asking you this question is because I'm looking at this process from start to finish, because again, we're in the same place. I want people, when you're getting up to make your calls, your CDL calls, or even if you're just doing groups that are non-CDL, it doesn't matter. If you're doing a business solution, even if you're calling on small businesses that then turn it into a group or a CDL group or however you're gonna do it. Part of the process is you writing down the fact that you're gonna be making those calls, right? We can't just tell ourselves we're gonna make calls, because that's not enough.
Right.
So everybody listening, if this is you, even if you're managing to make some calls and you're not doing it, you will increase your ability to make calls if you take these steps. So the night before you making your calls, or when you get up first thing in the morning, whatever your schedule looks like, just saying you're gonna make calls is not enough. You are going to have a prepared amount of calls to make. Meaning, if you plan on making 40 calls, you should have 40 prospects lined up to call, right? Because this is all making this a truth in your mind, right? So you can't just be like, well, I do got a list of companies, but I'm gonna make 30 calls tomorrow, and I got a list of companies, I'm just gonna grab my list. Again, that's not preparation. You need to have your list of people that you're going to call and have looked at that list the night before or first thing in the morning before you start your calls. Make sure you have the amount of prospects available to make the amount of calls that you said, because again, 1 + 1 has to equal 2. You can't say you're gonna make 50 calls and you got 20 prospects, because it's not gonna happen, right? So we try to make this all come to fruition. So that's one thing. So make sure you've got your prospects, make sure you've written down either on your calendar or on a to-do list. It doesn't matter, whichever way you have it set up. And also I have a to-do list too, and I will grab that and put that in here too. It's one that you can do online. Like it's a to-do list that you can either print off and do it, or you can just type it into your computer right interactively and then have it on your screen. You can do it either way. It's totally up to you. So I will drop that here at some point too when Sharonda's talking or whatever we've got going on here. So a to-do list or calendar, make sure it's there. So my next question to you is, when you're going to make those phone calls, have you determined within your own personality whether it's best to make phone calls to receive a reward, or is it best to make phone calls to avoid some kind of pain?
Well, to be honest, to receive a reward.
Okay. And what, tell me your process on that. Like, what is, if you don't mind telling me, what are you telling yourself when you're going to make those calls? Because if it's me, and I'm not a reward person, I'm a avoid pain person. That's my bigger drive. Motivation for me is not a reward, but avoiding pain. So if I'm going to make calls and I know that I've got this many things that need to be taken care of, and I'm setting myself up to make calls to make money to cover these expenses, no matter what those expenses may be, I am saying if I don't make those calls, I'm not going to have the money to take care of this stuff. That's my pain that I'm trying to avoid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what is your reward? How are you processing that in your mind?
I may not have understood the question right, but I was thinking, my thinking behind it was, when I was thinking to make the calls, I was like, I got to make these calls because I got to get my performance club done. You know, I was thinking about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was saying reward, like rewarding myself because I can get my performance club points done. It wasn't until last week, and I was talking with one of the trainers, and you know, we were just talking, and it was like giving me a mindset shift that when you start focusing on building relationships with people and to help people, that's going to come just from that mere activity. So, but prior to, it's just like, oh, I got to get these calls done so I can get my performance club points done. So then I don't fall out of my 100 and something months consecutive qualification. Okay.
So you got two things going there. So you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question wrong. And the reason why I want to elaborate on this because I want everybody's mindset to shift as well on this. Because again, we need as many pieces of ammunition as we could possibly have to get done what we need to get done. Yes or yes?
Yes.
So you're saying that you want to make those calls because you want to make sure your performance club qualified. Now, some may say that's selfish, right? Because you're saying it's not about the customer, it's about my performance club. Somebody may look at it like that, but you've got to have some type of, it's got to be a mixed thing, right? You can't just be making calls to protect this person. Because first of all, you may not even know who you're calling. So how do you actually have in your mind that you're about to, how can you emotionally be ready to help somebody and you don't know who they are? So realistically, that's not always going to be the case. Okay. So you didn't answer the question wrong. When you said performance club, here's the catch. You want to stay, you want to make sure you get your performance club done. That's a reward, right?
Yes.
But you also mixed in there pain because you said what? You don't want to miss it because you've had it 100 months.
Correct.
So you're trying to avoid losing performance club, which is a pain point, not a reward.
Okay.
So you've got a mix of things going there, right? You want a performance club qualified, and then you also don't want to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody listening, you need to be asking yourself this question. Why are you making these phone calls? Is it for pain or is it for pleasure? Right? Or excuse me, is it to avoid pain or is it to gain pleasure? Or is it a mix of the two? Because you have to know what's driving you and what's motivating you to make the calls. Because again, I've been on a lot of sales training with different companies and everybody says, oh, when you're calling, it's all about the prospect. Well, we all know that. First of all, if you call in a list of people that you don't know, again, how could I be interested in helping Sharanda when I don't know who she is yet? I'm calling so-and-so company. I don't necessarily know that Sharanda's the owner. I don't know. So realistically, you can't be thinking that way. You could be saying, I love this membership. It's going to help people, but you've got to have drivers that are tied to you emotionally. And this is not tied to you emotionally if you don't know who the person is. Helping people can be tied to you emotionally, right? But you still have to have a reward of pain because again, I don't care how you look at this example. There is no, and this is it, everybody on here right now, all 45 people. You cannot think of a thing that you do that is not associated with pain, right? Removing the pain or adding the pleasure. It doesn't matter what it is. If you decide to go to school for some more schooling for yourself, right? I want to hire my education. What is it for? It's either for pleasure or to avoid pain, right? If you get up and go to work tomorrow, anybody got a 9-to-5 job? Right? You're getting up and going to work tomorrow. You going for what? You going for the pleasure because you love what you do? Or are you going to avoid from losing your house, losing your car, and not being able to put food on your table? Every decision you're making is based on avoiding pain or you're doing it for pleasure. It doesn't matter what it is, right? As a human, that's why you're making decisions. So you've got to be able to tie your cause into this because part of phone procrastination is you saying it's not enough to just say I need to make phone calls. To get up and say, I need to make calls, that's not enough alone. You have to look at pain, avoiding pain. You have to look at gaining pleasure and find out which one is the driver for you. And then you need to put that on the table so that you can make sure that that's in front of you when you're doing it. So what was the first thing you needed to do? You need to make sure that you have a list of people to call. You have to make sure you then put that list of people out there and say, okay, on my to-do list, I'm making 30, 50 calls, whatever it's going to be, right? 20 calls, however your call situation is set up. Or it needs to be on your calendar. So it needs to be there for you. You know, you have to write down so you can communicate to yourself that you're going to do this. And then you need to be able to tie those calls to, right, avoiding pain or adding pleasure. And I'm going to show you guys some different things here on a printout here in a minute when I get to that point. So now that you figure that out, right? You don't want to lose Performance Club, and you also want to Performance Club qualify. Is there anything else that you can associate making those calls with?
Making money. One to qualify senior director, executive director, work towards the next ring.
All pleasure, pleasure, pleasure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right, all pleasure. So you categorize it. And I'm not saying that to be funny, guys. There's no right or wrong here. I'm just letting y'all know so that y'all realize everything she says is gonna be pleasure or avoid pain, right? So when you say money, let's go further than that. Money for what?
To pay bills or to save. I'm a real estate broker, so I get paid when I make sales. And we get paid well, but to have the other money in between, you know, where I could take and I can put, you know, a good portion of the sales away. So let me go deep.
So you got to save some money?
Yeah.
What you saving it for?
Okay.
If I get too nosy, just stop me.
No, you're not. You helping me. Okay, so let me, because you really helping me right now, because it just hit me. The main reason that I keep saying that I'm trying to save money each month is because I am living with terminal cancer and I don't have life insurance.
Oh,
So I'm trying to put things together, even though I'm in remission and I'm doing really well, and that's what I'm claiming. I don't want to be a burden to my daughter or whoever else. I want to make sure that I have things in place. So you really hit home when you said, go deeper. Why do I want to make the money? Because I take money and I put, you know, if it's 2,000, I can put back, I put that back. And then that way she knows where it is. So if something were to happen to me, she don't have to go begging family and friends. Because at the time I lost my life insurance right before I found out I had cancer, it was really a downtime in real estate. And so everything was going haywire. And so by the time I got a sale where I could go and get everything renewed, I had cancer. And I couldn't get renewed.
Okay, so now I want you to change your language. And what I want you to change your language is that you are making phone calls to put money up to make sure that if anything happens, right, blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense? I want you to change that language because now the more you tie that phone call into what's really important to you, because when you're calling for money, that's really easy to not do. Calling for money is real easy to not do because there's other ways to get money other than making a phone call. But if you tie that phone call to your real situation and skip all the other stuff, I promise you, you'll make more phone calls. Right? So I was giving an example on the call the other day, right? Me personally, right? So now I'm gonna put my business out there, like, because I asked you to put yours out there, right? So same thing with me, making phone calls, right? Making phone. My mom is 73 years old. Nothing wrong with her right now, but she's getting up in age. And if something was to happen to my mom, she in New York, I'm in Florida. So I'm putting some money up in case I have to go up there for any reason. I won't have to worry about my bills. I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about that, right? So when I'm making my dial, because some days I get up and I don't want to make no calls. And I'm like, I got to make these phone calls because my mom is up in age. And if something happens and I have to be bedside in New York, I've got to have the money to cover everything while I'm up there. That is what I say I'm making calls for. It don't have nothing to do with protecting the family. It don't have to do nothing to do with Performance Club. I don't have nothing. Why? Not because that's not important, but because I'm not tied to that. But I am tied to my mom's health and being there for her because she was there for me all my life. Does that make sense? So I'm asking you to do it this way because if you tie those phone calls into what's really important to you, you will make those. And this is why I'm talking about pleasure versus pain or avoiding pain, because you like these calls, man, just making sales calls, unless you just some maniac that love making them, right? And no disrespect to the maniacs that love making them. I'm saying you're a maniac. I'm saying the phone call maniac, right? There's a few people in the world that's like, I want to get up and just call like crazy. That is not most of us. That's not, 20% of us. It's less than 10% of people who just want to get up and just throw the phone against the wall and just call crazy. Like nobody wants to do that. So what are you tying it to so that you can get it done? This is why it's so important to identify within yourself. Why am I making phone calls? Why am I doing this business? Why am I opening up these groups? Because commercially, I can be all, I guess, playing it the doing the right thing and saying, oh yeah, man, I want to get up and protect 100 trucking companies. Listen, you can sell that to somebody else. Because you're not fooling me into believing that when I know you're doing this for money. You are not protecting 100 trucking companies because you care about 100 people that you don't know yet. You're protecting 100 trucking companies because you got bills to pay, because you got kids you putting through college, because you got a sick mom or a sick dad or this or that, and you got, right, we adults, we got things we got to take care of, and this is a vehicle to take care of them. Yes or yes?
Yes.
So we got to tie it to that and don't lie to ourselves about it. Tell yourself the truth so that you can make the dials to make the money, because there's nothing wrong with it. Because you are selling something that is going to help somebody at the end of the day, this vehicle is helping somebody. And right, that's why we say, right, making a living by making a difference. That's a true statement. But you got to admit that you're making a living. Don't short, don't, I just want Performance Club qualifying. I want to go to the trip. No, you need some money.
Mm-hmm.
You need some money for whatever, and it's okay, right? We in business. You need some money, but tie that money. Don't let money ever be the objective. Take money as an item off the table, and what you're going to use it for is what you need to be telling yourself, and then skip all of that and say, I'm making dials for the use of the money, whatever the use of the money is. Is that okay?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Right. So, and I want everybody to do that because you will be a little more adamant. The drive, the motivation is going to be a lot stronger if you're saying, hey, no, this is tough, because you're not tied to money. You're tied to the reason you're using it. And you've got to tie those emotional things to you if, you got those family members or whoever that you're doing stuff for. That's the position you want to put yourself in. So I've been talking for what has it been, like 40 minutes, Sharanda? Like I know Sharanda got something to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's good stuff, and prayers for you, Priscilla, and like truly, that was powerful just then, and but also you the real MVP. You're in a hospital bed, you're trying to get the information. I mean, he brought it out of you, but I think you knew it down deep too. So, but now that it's connected, we're praying for you. But like he said, I think that definitely will help, the reason, when we make those dials, we won't procrastinate as much if we switch it up that way and think about it that way. Because like me, I get up, I don't like to make dials, but I know that the opportunity blessed me to be an entrepreneur for last 9 years, last 11 without a W-2, because of the fact that I'm a caregiver. And these past 6 months made me realize that residual income is important, because with my decrease in production, the residual kicked in. And so therefore, it makes you think that I'm going to work as long as I can, because you just never know what day you can't work, what day you can't make a dial. So I definitely tie, my why to pushing through, making the dials, doing the things that are not good. So, and when you come through life, like Dunbar talks about, I guess he helped me with this years ago. Stop chasing qualifications, right? And things like that, and find the true reason why you're here doing what you do. Yeah, we like helping people, but on the other side of that, we want to check. But what is the check for? And, recently, definitely the residual is important. So I hope that helped a lot of people, because it definitely, make you think, because it's definitely true. So tomorrow on the Blitz, when you're making the dial, just think about why you're truly doing it. Thank you, Priscilla, for being vulnerable, being open. That was powerful. So I hope that helps some other people
Thank you.
as well. Yeah, because I can see some people on here. I know the money is not about the money. It's about the retirement, right? Or you already retired, but you got, so I know some people here got some grandbabies coming. Some people on here looking for retirement, right? That's just a couple I know, because they done had those conversations with me. But that was powerful what Dunbar just did. So who next? He'll help you. Come on, raise your hand. He'll help you get through to your why.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
This is when in our particular space, we have an opportunity to do some research prior to making the calls. Where does that fit in here? If we got 50 calls to make, are we going to spend time during the week or the previous day going through all of the research, so that when we make that call, we'll know what the problems are of the people that we are going to call on the Blitz, for example? Where does that fit in?
Well, for me, Mr. Hicks, I definitely don't advise anybody to do research while trying to make dials. That
No. I'm talking about how
I
much
know.
of it.
I'm trying to answer your question. Trying to get to it. Okay. All righty. Because some people do that, and that is definitely not the time. And those individuals, they can see where the numbers are down, because they're trying to research and then they're trying to dial. But for me personally, Mr. Hicks, these past few years, definitely did it at night. Some nights, like, when I first got started, I would, do it at night, do so many, because I know what my average of dials, normally is. I don't bust out 50 dials. So, but having a list of 50 would be great for me. Just say I just started today, and and I'm going to participate in the blitz tomorrow. I would tell that individual to have at least 25 dials. Because what if the numbers are bad, right? People don't answer. You got 2 hours that you're on the call. But for me, in the beginning, I did my research at night, definitely off IPA time. Now I do it mostly on Sundays if I'm going to do some things. Friday night is kind of like my time to do some stuff for me, and that stuff may be researching, just wherever my schedule allowed, but definitely not doing IPA. But for me, Mr. Hicks, I normally Sunday evenings, if I had to do some research, it would definitely probably be a Sunday afternoon, and normally it would be enough for the week, because I know what my average dials is for the week. And they're definitely not all new dials. You got follow-ups in there too. But I have researched so much, Mr. Hicks, that I can really pull a list. It may be old, but I can pull a list because I've done so much research over the years. But I would say do it on the IPA time. And you're on Tony's 12-week year, so make sure you calendar that in still too. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Helpful.
You're welcome, sir. Dunbar?
Yes, I just put in the chat the to-do list so people can use, and it's fillable, so you can do it interactively, or you can print it off and write it, whatever way you want to do it. That's totally up to you. And I am now dropping what I'm about to go over. I am now dropping that in there too. So let me see. Let's see.
While he's dropping that, I will say when he talks about procrastination, that's one thing. If you really are not that individual that normally procrastinate, if you don't have a list prepared, to keep dialing, that will make the phone heavy for you. Just feel like, oh my God, I'm not prepared. So you want to always try to be prepared, because that will push you back a lot. Like you get anxious. I've heard a lot of people say that. I didn't have my list together. I didn't have enough. I don't think I had enough, and, that caused more problems than not, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I am going to share my screen. And I just want to be able to pinpoint a few things based on, because it's always good to see what I'm talking about as far as the information. That way it works better for people who are thinking, hey, how do I apply this particular information? So, and again, the 2 pages that I'm about to go over, I'll just drop those 2 pages inside the chat as a document. So just click on it. If you're on a cell phone, you might not be able to. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work if you're on a cell phone. But if you're on a tablet or on a computer, you should be able to download it. So this is just something talking about pain versus pleasure. And it's saying that the perception is reality, because it's the perception of pain and pleasure too. Because sometimes it is just a perception. Like we're assuming that something bad is going to happen if we don't do, or we're assuming that something good is going to happen. It's not always a reality, but regardless of what, perception is reality. So what's going to happen is your drive is going to be the same, because your drive is assuming that perception is going to be reality. Does that make sense? So put a 2 in the chat if that makes sense. So it says that at first this concept might seem a bit strange, but a quick inspection makes it seem rather obvious. So these 2 pages are going to be quick. So it says, since we don't really ever know for sure what the future will hold, our brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex within the frontal lobe of our brain, is constantly making assumptions and judgments about the future. It's the perception of future pain or pleasure that drives our actions. So we're being driven by this, whether it's real or not, right? So emotion trumps the logic when thinking of pleasure and pain, right? And you're gonna see why. So when thinking of making a decision based on gaining pleasure or avoiding pain, there is also an emotional aspect of the decision and a logical, more intelligent aspect to it. And we'll take a look at that here on this next page. So have you ever been ready to make sales calls, knowing that logically it is the best thing for you to do at the moment, but emotionally you can't pick up the phone? Put a 4 in the chat, right? You want to be doing this, you know it's the right thing to do, but it's like you don't do it, right? It says, I understand this all too well. As a matter of fact, I even make excuses to find other things to do in order to justify not picking up the phone. Put a 5 in the chat if that's you, right? We talked about this before, right? You prepping food. You can't even cook. You're prepping food. You're washing clothes, right? You're making the bed. You vacuum in the house. You're calling people that you don't even want to talk to. Anything to avoid making a call to a prospect, right? In the above example, what wins? Intellect or emotions, right? And if you said emotions, right, you guessed it. An ounce of emotion wins over an ounce or two of logic every time. That's why you need to have these drivers. This is why you have to have a real tie into what you're doing and say, look, I've got to really look at why I'm making these phone calls. Because intellectually, you know you need to make them, but emotionally, you're scared to make them. You're scared of what they're gonna say. So you got to say, no, I can't be scared of what they're gonna say. I have to tie this into what I really want, or tie this into, if I don't make these calls, this is what's gonna happen with me, right? So the pain and pleasure related to our emotions are hardwired into our brains to be much stronger, because it's the primitive part of our brains that tells us to act rather than think ahead to the future. This also further explains the modulation of pain and pleasure by the time, pleasure by time. So, and this is talking about the difference between how far away that is. So you're saying, and let's look at Performance Club for this, what I'm talking about here. You know that you want to qualify for Performance Club, right? Like Priscilla said, she knows that she doesn't miss it. She doesn't want to miss it. But when it's the 3rd of the month, it's so far away that there's no pressure. It doesn't start to get more serious until it starts to get to the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th. And now you're trying to figure out whether or not the weekend is going to hit right before the end of the month, because you can't call people on the weekend. And see, now this pressure is coming because now time is part of this pressure, right? Because you're saying, I need to qualify, but it's so far away. I'm not really scared yet because I got 20 days. I got 3 weeks. And then as you get closer, what happens? Right? You start getting nervous because you're not qualified. You don't have no prospects. You don't have a list of people to call. So now what you're trying to qualify for, if you're somebody on this line that qualifies for executive director, right? A requalifying position, senior director, executive director, it's the same thing, right? You're fooling around all month. And then when you realize your team didn't do enough, when you realize you don't have enough in the pipeline, now you're under pressure. And now if anybody distracts you, you snapping at them. Right? You think you're going to get on everything and make every call you can because it's the last minute, right? Mm-hmm. So you see what it says in that last paragraph? When something is going to happen now, it's much more likely to trigger an emotional response in us than something that's going to happen decades from now, or in this example, weeks from now, talking about Performance Club, right? So month end is a perfect example of how pain versus pleasure can work for you or against you as well. Because you come into that new month and you fresh and you like, I'm not worried about Performance Club right now, right? I got some rollover points. I'm good. And before you know it, it's the 20th. You ain't wrote no memberships. A couple of people are supposed to call you while the membership fell through. And now you're starting to put all your eggs in the basket at the last minute. And you're up till midnight on the last night of the month trying to qualify for something because you don't want to lose it, or you want the pleasure of holding on to it. Yes, put a 6 in the chat if that makes sense. So we've got to remember whenever we're looking at sales, we call procrastination, whenever we're looking at qualifying for things, right? Tie these things into something that's important for you, and don't let the distance between how long you have to get it done fool you into believing that, oh, well, I don't have to worry about this right now. Get it knocked out. That's why when I was on the team building side, I used to always tell my team, get performance qualified by it. Don't run the 1st to the 30th, run the 15th to the 15th. 15th to the 15th, right? So on the 15th of the month, you need to be done. And you need to be working on your next month on the 15th. Y'all know what I mean by 15th to the 15th? So on the 15th of September, you should be PC Pro. And on the 16th, you should be working on rollover. So that by the 15th of next month, you're already PC Pro again. Yes or yes? Put a 7 in the chat if that makes sense. So this is how you do that. Now you take away, now you control the time because you set a timeline that's not really existent with the companies. That means if you was to miss by a day or two, you wouldn't fall out because it's an imaginary timeline that you created that won't prevent you from hitting that goal. So if you said, man, I ended up closing out 3 days later than I should, well, guess what? You finished out on the 18th. If you use their timeline, the 1st to the 30th, and you 3 days late, now you on it's the 3rd of the next month, you missed it. So you either asking them to reboot if you haven't already used that. Does that make sense to everybody? So I just want you to look at your business in a different light with all of these things. And that's why I bring these to the table. So I know sometimes if some of you are, because sometimes y'all reach out to me and you're like, well, what does this have to do with CDL? It has to do with CDL because it has to do with your business. And if CDL is part of your business, you've got to understand the psychology that helps run your business. This is sales. This is sales. And you have to be running your own campaign because many of you all wouldn't even be making a phone call if Legal Shield wasn't setting stuff up for you to make calls. You wouldn't be making no calls. And you shouldn't be relying upon Legal Shield to say, hey, here's an opportunity to make calls. You should be doing that yourself. You should have your psychology set up to make as many calls as you need to make to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, right? In this business with this vehicle, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna stop sharing here and see if Sharanda has something.
Can you post the links again? Because when I did it, it selected the whole chat.
Oh, really? Hold
Yeah.
on a second. Yeah, I can. I can definitely do that. Let's see.
So yeah, so
Which one? Which one you going to post? Both of them?
yeah, I think Melissa couldn't see either.
Yeah, I couldn't either. I sent you a message.
I am putting the to-do list now. It should be popping up. And I am going to do the other one here.
It didn't pop up.
It didn't.
Not on mine.
No,
It's
neither.
here.
So that might depend on what device you on. I'm not sure how that works. I do know that depending on what you're on, that is determining whether you can see it. Because if somebody can see it when I put it there, that means that it's showing up. That means that it might be a tablet or it might be your phone or whatever the case may be. So regardless, if you can't pull it from here, like don't even be concerned about that. If you can't, I will shoot an email to everybody the same way you got the CDL email and you get the email for the certification training that I sent out earlier today. I'll send an email with these 2 attachments. You can just download the PDF that way as well. But
Thank you.
Drop.
That'll work. Thank you.
Still drop this in here. This other one right now. So for those that can see them going in and you need to get them, go ahead and grab them. But if you're not seeing them, don't worry about it. I will shoot you an email and I'll just attach both of those. All right. So we've got our CDLP too. Don't forget, guys, this coming Saturday with John Hoffman. and Alan Roman. I sent the email out for that at 11 a.m. Eastern today. Sharanda Ivy has her Thursday accountability call coming up. Does anybody have any questions about what we talked about? Because I know sometimes it's confusing for people, especially if you got on late, you're probably like, what the heck was this guy talking about? You got on 20 minutes into the conversation. I know how it is sometimes. So is everybody good? Anybody have any questions about anything? Oh, let me check. Going once, going twice. All right, fantastic, fantastic.
I was just gonna say, just when making dials, like tomorrow we have the blitz. So like Mr. Hicks asked about having a list. So if you don't have a list, a new list, because most people feel like they have to have new dials or, you know, a new list, make follow-up calls. For those that have groups on here already, maybe check on your groups. And, you know, just use the time to make the dials because you may not have other times in the day. But if you have follow-ups, just make follow-up calls. You know, don't let the anxiety of thinking, oh, it's the blitz tomorrow, I gotta have a new list. I don't, so I won't make a dial. Or you're thinking you gotta make new dials, and then that anticipation of nervousness and fear comes over you because, you know, people are dialing. But just use the time to make dials, whether it's new, follow-up, whatever, groups, whatever. But just use the time wisely if you have that. If you can get on that, on the blitz, you know, just use the time to make some calls. Maybe that's your icebreaker. You just need to get in the rhythm of the habit of doing it. And sometimes that takes away the fear, the procrastination. So if it's new to you or you don't do it often, do something that's a little more familiar, but don't think you have to do new dials and then you procrastinate for 2.5 hours.
That's also really good for those who have accounts and you like, I didn't make a new list like Sharanda's saying, but the blitz is coming, you've been busy doing whatever. Guys, your number one customer, the easiest way to make a sale is go to a person that already bought from you. So you can always go call your prospects or your people that you've already closed, ask them for a referral. Call and check on them and then ask them, do they know anybody else that can use the service? Maybe that's the calls you're making, right? Call some of the people that you sold a membership, even if you're saying, well, I haven't opened up a group. Don't open up that escape hatch. Let's say you sold CDL plans. Let's say you sold non-CDL plans. If I call David Bazemore, who's a regular client, I can say, hey, I'm just calling to check on you. Have you used your membership yet? Just calling to see whether or not you got your will and stuff. Oh man, I haven't really gotten it done yet. Hey, look, I'm kind of moving into a different space with the membership. We also have something that covers commercial drivers. You happen to know any truck drivers?
Mm-hmm. Trick your mind. That's all it is.
You know what I mean?
Just trick it.
It's just,
Trick it.
yeah, there you go. So you're not scared to call a current customer, right? So call them and ask them for a referral. And if you also go to your Ellison Gates, pull up all your customers and call through your customers.
You might set an appointment for something else.
How many of your customers have you asked, do they got a small business? Some of y'all sold a regular membership to people and they own a business and you don't even know.
Don't even know. Some of you sold a legal plan and they got a CDL, but you needed, you wanted that commission.
Hey, Aline Taylor, I saw your question just come through. To get on Sharanda's accountability call it's on the Commercial Drivers Facebook page. It's pinned to the top. So there's a little welcome. It's like a colorful welcome image there. And when you go there, it tells you how to get in the program. It'll email Sharanda, and then the day of, on Thursday, you'll get something that comes to you on how to get on there when you enroll into that accountability call. So guys, there's been so many ways to make a phone call, even when you're nervous. Pick up that phone, like I said, call somebody that's already on your books. Ask them, have they used the membership? and find out whether or not they want to buy another plan. I don't care if you ask them and they tell you they don't know another truck driver, but they got somebody else that need the family plan. Dog, why don't you sold another family plan? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you made another sale. That's the whole point, is you're making dials to make sales. But you have to make if you don't make phone calls, you are not going to make any money.
Just no activity, your results. And
Yeah.
focus on the results. Just focus on the activity.
Absolutely.
Jackie Hamilton got her hand up.
Okay. One of the things, I know a lot of times people say, well, I'm gonna make 30 calls or 40 calls. I don't do that. I always put hours on mine. Like if I say I'm gonna box in 2 hours, 3 hours, it usually be 3 at a time. And I said, I'm gonna be 2 hours making phone calls. I'm gonna be 3 hours making phone calls. And then how many ever calls I get, that's what I do, because I could talk to 5 people or I'm just not just dialing. So is that a bad thing? Or do you think I should put numbers on it rather than put like I'm doing it so many and I'm going to do it for hours? I might get 15 phone calls in 2 hours, but I might get 3 appointments or I talk to 7 people or something like that instead of just. Do you think that's a bad thing, or you think I should number it more as?
Are you getting results?
Yeah, I get results.
Okay, well, what's your question?
Well, I mean, because people be saying they making 30, 50.
Don't worry about don't look to the left, don't look to the right.
Okay.
Can't do it. That might not work for you. Obviously, it doesn't. You like time boxing versus setting a number. It's okay. You getting results.
Okay.
That's my take on it. I mean, or Jackie, tomorrow, give yourself a number on the blitz and say how many calls you're gonna make and go for that goal and see how you feel about that.
Okay, I could do that.
But it's not a right or a wrong, Jackie, with what I'm saying.
Okay.
A lot of people do time boxing. So it's working for you. Just told us you made 3 appointments, 15 dials, 3 appointments. That's good.
And one other question I wanted to ask was, George was saying something, and I thought about this too, because, I'll go back 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But do you go back, George, when you do that, do you go back and research them over again? Because I've done that and it'd be like, oh, they went out of business.
Yes, I research them all again, because the first time I viewed them, I copied their data down, and then I go to see where they're at now. But I also do it during the course of those 3, if it was in February, in March, I look at them every month, but I'll go back and check their numbers and see where they're at now, and look at the violations that they've gotten recently and press on those pain points so that I could try to get some conversation going.
But that's the thing too, though. Can I make this point, Dunbar, before we hang up?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing too. So when researching, it's not a one-time thing, knowing that in this industry, they're on the road every day. They're bound to get stopped again. I would say a good conversation would to be continued to follow up. The follow-up is to go back and look and see. If you haven't closed them, that's new conversation. That's a new reason to call back. If you didn't have a reason to, and maybe that's where the hesitation and the procrastination come, because you feel like you continue to just make the dial over and over again without new conversation. Like, what am I going to say? That's where the procrastination comes in. But if you haven't closed them and haven't called them in months, you haven't called them in weeks. Just for those that don't know, the system only updates once a month. Okay? Once a month, the SMS system updates. So therefore, you can talk to somebody today or tomorrow, or research them tonight, call them tomorrow. They got a ticket on the 1st when you originally researched them and it wasn't there. But you look at them tonight, it's showing. That's a new conversation. Because one, the owner may not know because the driver may not have told him. Or it just didn't come up because it had just happened. But now you knowing, now you can talk to that whoever owner about the violation that now appears on the result, on the record. So that gives you an opportunity to speak to them again, but not feel like the phone is heavy because you just continue to call to say the same thing. But now you got new conversation, so it should be a little lighter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Jackie, to answer your question, you should always be, until you close them, keep up, research them. Yeah, keep up with them. You know, like I think we talked about this one night on the accountability call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With Anthony and Clarence. They have been following a company for 2 years.
Right.
And the owner was a numbers guy. So Anthony had followed the company. The guy, they were getting more violations. So now he can go back and say, okay, well, what happened with this? What happened with that? What happened with this? What happened with that? And it just was a better conversation. But they had followed this company for 2 years. So it's, I mean, research isn't just a one and done. Until you close them, you should always be following up to see what's up with them. To have, you know, share some other stuff with them.
Okay.
You know, that'll make following up easier because now you can talk about something else.
That's the difference between this industry and the non-CDL industry. If you open up another regular group and it was a doctor's office, well, what are you researching again 2 months later? There's nothing to research because you're selling the membership based on the employees buying it because they could possibly have a legal problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can't research that, right? So I mean, all you doing is seeing if they're still in business, and if they're not going to answer the phone. So you don't have to worry about that. But on the CDL side, because we're looking at those things, like their safety, it's important. It's important to do that. And like I mentioned before, that was one of Sharonda's breakthroughs. One of Sharonda's breakthroughs was a company that she had called that said they wasn't interested. And then she researched them again and saw that they were out of business and called them back and said, hey, you out of service. And they didn't know. That was one of her first breakthroughs to be like, oh, wait a minute, I know more than these guys. Right? That was what brought that to her attention when she called and knew that they were out of service and they didn't. She was like, man, this research stuff really worked because this company don't even know they out of service and I do. And that gave her a leg up. It gave her confidence and helped her understand that, oh, I really can provide information for these guys because I knew something that they didn't know because I continued to follow up and I researched before I follow up. So that's a good example of how that works. On the calling thing, I always say do whatever gives you the most control. The more you feel in control of your calls, the more calls you'll make. Does that make sense? So when I tell people don't count your results because you don't have control over your results. So don't say, oh, today I'm picking up the phone, I'm closing 5 people. You have no way, I don't care who you are, you don't have a way of knowing you're gonna close 5 people. You cannot say, I'm gonna close 5 people today and have any control over that. Now you can luckily do it, but you don't have control over it, right? So controllability is very important when you're making calls because you're supposed to be in charge. If you say, I'm gonna make 30 dials, you might not make 30 dials because you don't have enough time to make 30 dials because you're getting people on the phone. Which means now if you're forcing yourself to make 30 dials, the rest of your day can't be organized because you're leaving the rest of your day up to how many dials you make. Does that make sense, guys? That means you're losing control again. If you time block and you say, I'm gonna call for 2 hours, that is the only 2 things you have to control over. I'm gonna call from 9 to 11. However many calls you make from 9 to 11 is based on how many people answered the phone. Now you can truly say, I can control how many hours I call and then still control the rest of my day. Because how do you position your entire day if you guarantee you're gonna make 30 calls and it takes you longer today than it did yesterday? That means you lost control of your day.
Okay.
Make sense? So I would say time block if you want that control. If you just freelance and you like, I don't have nothing else on my calendar, then do whatever, do whatever you're gonna do on that. But I would tell you, if you like, hey, look, I've got a job, or I got this business and that business, or I'm gonna make calls for this amount of time, I'm gonna research for this amount of time, I'm gonna follow up, all of those kind of things, you want to be able to have that control to say, I'm only calling from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock, I'm taking a break, and then I'm going into my next piece of activity, whatever that other IPA is. And then you can document how many calls you made. I made 9 calls today. Why is that? Because I got 7 people on the phone. That took some of my time. Effective calling, and time control calling. Fair?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So we about to close out. Shredder, any last words before we close out? I think we got the questions answered.
Yeah, no, I just, I used to worry about, I was, sometimes I'm still procrastinating over here. Don't get twisted. So, I mean, it's just the luck of the day. But a lot of things I continue to tell myself is, activity. Don't worry about anything else. And as long as you focus on activity, you'll be surprised at how the results start to roll in. But until you do the activity, the results may, not show up because you haven't done the activity. So if you do the activity, eventually the results will show up. Something. So just focus on that. And whatever makes you do it, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think you have to do it a certain way. I think we all get twisted in that. Do it a way that works for you and that you're going to do it. Don't think about it too hard or look at somebody else, because George can make $50 or send out 50 emails. That may not be your deal. Figure out your deal. Work your deal.
Hey, Sharon, Tony Robbins has a commercial out right now. He talks about doing things the wrong way. He says, if you're saying to yourself, hey, what if I'm running in the wrong direction? He said, well, if you run faster, you'll find out quicker. So if you saying, what if I say the wrong thing? Let me tell you something. You call 10 people and say the wrong thing, you'll realize it real quick. But if you just keep on trying to perfect what you're going to say, but don't make a phone call, you're going to always be working on your presentation that you're not doing. If you just say, I don't know if this presentation is right, call 10 people with it. You'll know whether it's right, and you'll know whether you need to tweak, because you might make those 10 calls and be like, man, I closed 3 people. I thought I didn't know what to say, but obviously I did. And if you don't close anybody and they're laughing at you and saying, God, what are you talking about? Now you're not trying to perfect your presentation because you're just thinking something's wrong with it. You know something's wrong because a prospect told you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to just do the thing and realize, because you can't get hurt, right? We're not telling you to go do something that's going to get you hurt. We're telling you something to do something that might get the phone. Worst case scenario, somebody hang up the phone. If you're not willing to take that risk, then you don't need to be in sales.
Right.
So you got to do sometimes, right? We fell off the bike. Take the training wheels off and see if you fall. How do you know whether or not you need the training wheels? Take them off. Take them training wheels off and see if you fall. If you fall, you'll know what you're doing. If you stay on it, then you learn how to ride when the training wheels on. But you got to find out one way or another, because you can't be 10 years old with training wheels, or now you're just going to be the laughing stock in your neighborhood. Right? So at some point, you're going to have to risk falling, getting hung up on whatever it is in this particular field. If you're not willing to risk that again, you got to ask yourself, right? If you don't want the turmoil of the stock market, then don't invest in stocks. So you got to know your level of risk and then do whatever you're going to do based on that. You have made a decision to get in sales. Worst that's going to happen is they're going to hang up the phone. That's the worst. So if you're willing to deal with that, make your calls. If you're not willing to deal with it, go do something else. That's all I can tell you.
Get on the blitz. You believe it or not, you made 2 calls. If you scroll through the blitz, you might just see somebody on the blitz. That might be their deal for the day. They may just need it to show up. that might have been the hardest step for them that day, is to sign in.
Yeah. See all them people making all them phone calls, you get excited. You be like, man, this was going on every week, all these people. You start seeing people you know.
Yeah,
You're like, okay, look, I can do this. I can do this.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it works. It works.
Not by yourself.
If it didn't, we wouldn't be here every Monday telling y'all this for free. Because ain't nobody paying us to be here. It works.
Well, the thing about the Blitz is it tell you how many calls people make and how many appointments they set. Man, some people busting out $70 and they make 0 appointments. So everybody in the same club. Everybody's trying to do some activity.
Get it in, get it in. All right, guys. We will see y'all next week. Sharanda will see some of y'all Thursday.
Sign
We'll
up for
see
the
some of y'all
class.
Saturday.
John Hoffman gonna be dropping some jewels on Saturday. Y'all sign up. Sign up, please, before 3 p.m. Central. No walk-ins.
Yeah. No special
walk-in.
emails. Hey, could you 10 corporate? No, I can't. And they're not gonna take it if I do. If I don't sign up, and I'm a trainer by 3 o'clock, they ain't gonna let me take it. So, right? It's just that's the way they play the game on that. So, all right.
So if you got associates that want to take the class Saturday, please have them sign up. At least say by 12, because they may run late or something. But 3 p.m. Central, they may have missed the mark. So, and corporate runs that. So just tell somebody, okay? All right.
Yeah. Thanks for that too, George. More prayers out to Priscilla out there in the hospital. We're praying for you. All right, guys. You guys all have a fantastic night, fantastic week. Have a successful blitz tomorrow. And we will see you guys all next week and Thursday and Saturday of this week.
Right.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night, you guys.
Thank you.
Good seeing you,
Good night.
Tyson.
Good night. Thank you.
I
Good night.
didn't even see T. Fearington.
I saw him this weekend, man, in Charlotte.